Hello, friends. This is Justin Jones with the Lake Whitney Chamber of Commerce, alongside with Colt Hatcher. We are both directors on the board. We have a special guest today. We have Yvette Stewart. Hi, Yvette.
Oh my goodness. Hi. I don't know what happened.
So, Yvette, why don't you do us the pleasure? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is you do.
Absolutely. So thank you for having me. Yvette Stewart, a partnership specialist with the Department of Commerce, specifically for the Census Bureau.
Mm-hmm.
What that means is I partnered with various organizations in 5 different counties so that they can support the census in their area. So that we can make sure that everyone was aware of everything that was getting ready to happen. And I've been with the Bureau since June of last year.
Okay. So what counties do you cover? Obviously Hill, since we're talking, on a Whitney podcast, but what else is in?
I do not have Hill.
Really? Okay.
I do not.
We'll just cut that part out of the podcast.
I know. I was actually I had Hill a long time ago. Before there were 3 partnerships. There were only 2 in this area.
Okay.
So Hill was actually one of my counties, but then when we received a 3rd partnership specialist, a lot of the areas were given to her. But when I was asked if I would do the podcast, I was more than happy to. That's not a problem.
Well, we're sure glad to have you.
Thank you.
So what got you involved with the Census Office?
When I saw the job posted, I knew that it was coming up since it was a decennial year. I've worked with the census prior. I started in 1990. I've done the 1990 census, the 2010, and now the 2020. The 2000 census, I wasn't in country, so I wasn't able to do it. But I feel as though it is very important for people to know what we do, why we do it, and what's going to come out of it.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit, because I know there's a lot of uncertainty about exactly what it is the census does per se. So why don't we just kind of expand on that last sentence? What do y'all do and what is the purpose of it?
Okay, so what we do is we count everyone in America. Regardless if you're 2 hours old or 200 years old, we don't care. We just count everyone, and everyone matters. Everyone should be counted, regardless of where you're from, who you are. And that is starting to become a little bit much for some people, because they're not exactly understanding why the government wants this information. But the population in the census has been around since 1790. So every 10 years we do the census and we just count everyone that's in America. It's come a long way, and they used to do everything by hand, by foot, by house. And this year was the first time ever that anyone could ever do it online. So we are trying to make it as convenient as possible for people to do their census and be counted, so that everyone gets the part of the money that's distributed out in the federal funds that comes along with the census. And we're talking billions of dollars for every state and for every year for the next 10 years.
So how does that work exactly? Because you're saying based off how many people live, are we looking at by state or by county, or is it even broke down further than that?
It's broken down quite a bit, but let's say by state. We are going to go with the state of Texas right now is at 60%. That is not a good number for the state. We're the largest state, and we should have the largest number, but we do not.
60% response rate?
60% response rate for the entire state of Texas. Not good. For Whitney, it's at 59.8.
So can you walk us through a little bit about kind of the explanation of following the dollar? I think that maybe that will kind of hit home to somebody of how the numbers correlate to the individual dollar to where that gets to in respect to Whitney and Hill County in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So the programs like school lunches, elderly homes, the roads, fire departments, hospitals, stores, these are all in conjunction with the numbers that you get from the census. So say in a neighborhood that we know is overpopulated, excuse me, they really do need to fill out their census, because if they don't, then it seems as though there aren't that many people there.
Mm-hmm.
So the needs are not going to come. So if you look at other neighborhoods, they're building houses, they're putting stores up, there's a hospital, there's a medical center, there's a new school. How did they get that? And it's because of the population. So if you fill out your census, then we know how many people are in that area. We know the needs for that area because there aren't any. In one section of Killeen, Texas, is really, really low response rate. And there are a lot of people there. However, we're not going to get everyone to fill out their census.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing you can possibly do to convince them otherwise. And it's a shame because they need the programs. They need the money to go to their community. And just to put a dollar amount on so that someone can have somewhat of an idea, for every person in America is worth about $1,500 per year. And if Whitney is at 59% right now, that means 41% of the people there don't count, don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 41% of the money that you would have gotten for your community that's no longer going to be there.
Very interesting. So, did you have a question, Colt?
Go ahead, you may hit it.
In your experience, why do we have this issue where people don't do their census?
I don't think they're educated as to why, what they're getting out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because children and elderly are very important to the census. You know, everyone else falls in between, and everybody, well, that doesn't affect me. I don't have anything to do with that. Actually, you do, because of the schools, because of the roads, because of the hospitals. All of these things that matter to a community should matter to you. And that's why we try to make sure that everyone is aware that the education part of it, the money that's coming from federal funds, what it's going for, and what's continued with it. WIC and SNAP are two programs that are funded by the Census Bureau, and well, the federal funds for that. And a lot of people depend on that to live and
Mm-hmm.
to sustain their children. However, if they don't fill out their census, you know, it will slowly start going in the other direction. Say, well, they don't need it in that neighborhood. There aren't that many people there.
I see. That's interesting.
So talk to us a little bit about, you know, being the Chamber of Commerce, you know, for not just the Whitney area, but kind of the surrounding areas. You mentioned that some of those dollar figures go into storefronts.
Yes.
Can you speak a little bit about kind of what that looks like? Because that may hit our membership pretty close to home of trying to be able to retain some of those federal dollars that are coming down to them in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So you have a lot of neighborhoods that don't have any stores. They don't. They have convenience stores. And convenience stores, especially in a low-income neighborhood, are very expensive. You can't buy a gallon of milk in a convenience store for the price you would buy it in a supermarket.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to get a supermarket in that neighborhood, we need to know that there are X amount of people there in order to get that. That's why you would see a supermarket going up in another neighborhood, or you would see a hospital going up in another neighborhood, because we need these numbers. The extension should have been enough for everyone in America to fill out their census.
Mm-hmm.
1 April was the date that we were supposed to have everyone fill their census out. 1 April, we were all quarantined at home because we weren't out. So it got extended until July. And we thought, okay, great. You know, now we have a little bit of time. Now we can get everyone else. Not quite. So it went from July to August, from August to October. From October, it went /30 days, and now it's 30 September. That's all we have. That's the date that everything is going to be counted.
I see.
So, admittedly, I am pretty ignorant when it comes to the census and kind of how it works. So, does citizenship play a role in that? Um,
No, we're counting everyone in America.
so,
Everyone.
do you think that that plays a factor in the response rate,
It
though?
could
Because
be that.
we've seen people that don't necessarily want to give us their information because they may not be a true citizen. And what are you going to do with this information? Are you gonna turn us in? Are you going to do that?
Mm-hmm.
That's always a fear, that some people think that their information is going to ICE or is going to another federal agency to track them for anything, and that is not true. We are not allowed to give anyone's information to anyone. As a federal government employee, we were sworn in when we started, and we swore for, in my position, I'm sworn in for life, that I cannot divulge any information. If I do, I can go to jail for up to 5 years, or spend about $250,000 in fines. And here in Texas, $250,000 buys you a nice little house.
Yeah.
I don't see myself giving out anyone's information.
No.
So that part of it is, it's really hard for people to understand. We can't. And once you fill out your census, and this part is really important, once you fill out your census and you submit, there's no way to retrieve. Mm-hmm. So it's gone. It's gone to the Bureau and is locked up, and is actually locked up for 72 years. None of that information is released for 72 years. So now, if you have Ancestry.com or any kind of website that will give you information on your family's history going back, you could see that some of it comes from the census. But look at the years that we're working with. I think it's 1930, 1940. By the time 2020 census is released, I doubt if I'll be around. That's a long time from now. I mean, if God wants me to live that long, then so be it. But
we'll be some of those 200-year-old citizens you talked about earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah. And just to be clear, the individualized information is gone after 72 years. The data sets that pertain to that information are responded to much quicker than that.
Correct.
So I had a question. We're talking about numbers, and I like Colt, I'm pretty ignorant about the entire census process. So I don't know what all information really gets taken into account. And that's really my next question. Are we just looking at the population in an area, or are you also looking at other factors like average income level, how many people are on food stamps, things like that, to kind of determine, all other things being equal, if you have two sets of populations, but this one has a lower income level, they might need some of the resources more than the other one, is what I'm getting at. So I'm wondering if y'all look at other factors besides just population.
We do not. None of that plays a factor in the census. The questions that we ask are generic, and it's only 10 questions this time. Mm-hmm. And none of it has to do with your income. None of it has to do with your location, as far as if you live in a low income area. The address is actually, everyone knows whatever address it is, where the low income area are. Mm-hmm. But that's not something that we focus on. The only thing that we're focused on is the number of people in America, mm-hmm. Period.
And what I read a little bit of, it's this census information is combined with several other data sets, which give you guys the information that you need pertaining to low income neighborhoods or those things. It's kind of combined data sets to give you guys the information. One question that actually I have two questions written down. One of them that may be kind of important, and you may not necessarily know this in particular, but do you know what organizations you have partnered with in Hill County to make sure that the census runs smoothly in Hill County?
Unfortunately, I do not. And the reason that I say that, the only reason that I say that is because Hill County was one of my counties prior to us being sent out to do the work in the counties that we needed to do. That's when there were two partnership specialists in my area, And once we got a third partnership specialist, that area went that went to her. I'm sorry, that area went to her. So she knows the partners that you have, and if you need that information, I will be more than happy to give her your information, and she can contact you.
So we'll just pretend like I didn't ask that question, and I'll ask one that I pulled up. So one question that I have in doing some quick research from the Census Bureau website, it talks about using information for innovation and automation in workforce management. Do you know anything about that and what that entails?
For the workforce management, we no. Again, we don't supply anyone any information. So if they have information as far as the number of people in the area, they've got it through their means. Mm-hmm. The census will not release that information to them. It won't release that information to any organization.
So it's really using that information to trickle down to the state level to say, hey, here's your area for opportunity. Like you mentioned, the WIC offices, locally, and ultimately that money gets to like the Texas Department of Education and TxDOT for the roads and those things, and then they have the ability to determine where that funding goes. So
absolutely.
Okay. So I'm sure by now there's probably some people that have been watching this and they have probably thought to themselves, oh crap, I didn't do my census. So was this some
No, Colt, no. Say
Colin, Colt, shame on you.
I'm gonna do it. I have my other computer up. I will do it right now. I promise.
Man, I can't. Man, I'm so embarrassed. I'm sorry, Yvette. I can't believe I brought him on here. But so this was emailed out to everybody. Is that what I understood from earlier?
Correct. Okay. The census sent out an invitation to every single dwelling. Okay. In March. The thing is that they didn't send it by name. They sent it by dwelling. So a lot of people felt as though it was junk mail. Mm-hmm. Well, in March, you got it 3 times. So if you thought that was junk mail 3 times, you did away with it for 3. Yeah, you did away with it 3 times. What I did do, and I'm sure that my partner in that county as well, was send out to the elected officials what the envelope looks like, so people are aware not to throw it away. Mm-hmm. But that's okay. There's still hope for you, Cole. Yeah. They actually sent out this invitation. That was it. They were going to stop at 4 times to send it out. Mm-hmm. Due to the COVID and the extension, this invitation was actually sent out 7 times. So you've gotten it. You just probably did away with it. So you can still fill out your census with your address. If you don't have your ID number, unless you go through and try to find it in your mail, you can fill it out with your address. You just go to census.gov and hit respond, and it'll take you right to the website where you can fill it out. Okay. Or you can call the 844 number, which is 844-330-2020. And you can call on the phone. They have 13 languages that you can call, they can respond with. And if out of those 13 languages, one of them is still not yours, then they will guide you to 59 more non-English speaking languages. Okay. Or if you still have your form, please send it in.
What is the final date to submit that?
30 September.
30 September. Okay. So those of you listening, if you've been wary, if you've been throwing it in the trash, like an irresponsible citizen,
oh.
then get it in for the end of the month. You got 6 days.
I really hope your census is done, Justin.
Well, Justin, is your census completed?
No, but I like to give Colt crap, so. But I'm going to do it now.
Okay. It takes, an average, it takes about 3 to 5 minutes per person.
Okay.
So it's really easy to do. If you have more than one person in your household, then you will fill out that information for everyone in that household.
Great. Colt, do you have anything else you want to ask or anything?
No, I'm actually doing my census as we speak right now.
Yes. Oh, I'm so proud of you.
All right. Well, Yvette, that's everything that's coming to mind for me. I think this was a very informative interview. Do you have anything you want to add to this, or? or anything like that?
Yes, for the people that do not fill out their census, there's no waiting after September 30th. You can't do this in November. You can't do this next summer. You can only do this 10 years from now. So in 2030 will be your opportunity to do it again. So if you didn't count now, please make sure you count then. But in 10 years, it's amazing the transformation that you're going to see. And there are going to be people that are going to complain because certain programs are no longer available. But those are the same people that didn't fill out their census. And you can't blame anyone but yourself if you don't fill out your census. Mm-hmm. It's time is running out, but you still have a little bit of time. Next week, that's it.
But even if they can't find it, they can go to the website. So there's really no reason, you know, if you're determined after listening to this to do it. It doesn't sound like it takes much time. 10 questions.
It was very easy to find. I mean, extremely easy to find.
Yeah, so
very easy. Good.
So really, there's no reason not to submit it if you're running late, if you haven't done it yet, like some of us, we can still go on and submit it. We're good.
So if they don't have internet access, what's their other option?
Call on the phone, 844-330-2020.
Okay.
If you can't call on the phone still, you have a paper form somewhere that it came. You can fill it out and send it out. Or last but not least, there's also the enumerators. These are the people that are going door to door and they're getting the information from you. Bless you. Was that a sneeze? And the enumerators, by the way, are very resilient. They're not going to give up on the people that have not filled out their census. Mm-hmm. Please take into consideration that there are group quarters of people that are counted in a different way, such as people in college that live in the dorms, that's a group quarter. People in the military that live in barracks, that's a group quarter. People in jail, elderly that live in assisted living that we know they're not going anywhere, that's a group quarter. However, you still have some homeless people that they don't go to a shelter, they don't go to a food bank. And people were wondering, well, how do you count those? Well, those people that live under the bridge, well, the census, the enumerator is going under that bridge to count those people as well. We're just making sure that we get everyone we possibly can. Mm-hmm. If Texas as a whole is at 60%, that's actually not a good number. So we can actually work better to get those numbers up as a whole state. But if not, please make sure your county is counted as much as possible. And for Whitney right now, the self-response rate is 59.8. And the numbers do get updated every day.
Yeah. So now you got me curious. You said Texas at 60%. What's the average for other states?
I would have to actually look that up.
Oh, okay.
I am not exactly sure, but I tell you what, if we take
well, while you're looking that up, I think for those of you that live in Hill County, just take a drive down some of your roads, and that should be a factor enough to be able to have you fill out your census, to be able to get some of that funding to your commissioners, to be able to give you the ability to get some new roads. I'm on a couple of Facebook groups with Hill County Rant and Rave, and every other post is about the roads in Hill County. So maybe that's motivation enough.
I'm just sitting here thinking as you're talking, it's not unusual to hear people complaining like you're saying about the roads, but even about the city or the county itself, or some people don't like the schools or something. And this sounds like it's really important. If you want to see those things improve, you can't improve anything out of a vacuum. You got to have the budget, you got to have the money coming in. And so it's very important to know how many people they're dealing with, so that affects how much money they actually get.
Absolutely. This is broken down by state. So every single state will give you a percentage. So I don't have America as a whole. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, we probably won't have that number until closer to the end of the year.
Well, since we are Texans and we are competitive, why don't you tell us what Oklahoma is?
That's That's the only reason I'm asking, because I'm so competitive. It's like, how are those other states doing? I know we're beating somebody.
I'm sure, yeah. We're beating Alabama, if that helps any. Any particular city, because this won't give me.
Let's go with Oklahoma City. We'll go the capital.
Okay, Oklahoma City.
As long as we're beating Oklahoma, we're good. I'm fine.
Everything.
I mean, beating Alabama is nice, but it's Alabama. I want to beat Oklahoma.
No, Oklahoma as a whole is almost at 65%.
All right, Texans, you're letting us down.
Gosh.
I'm sorry. That's Oklahoma City. They're at 64.9. They have some tracks right now that are 75%.
Well,
losing Oklahoma. That is a sad day.
I'm about to do mine. But the rest of you Texans better step it up.
Please, we can't lose to Oklahoma.
Man. All right. All righty. Well, thank you again, Yvette. We definitely did anything else come up, Colt, that you wanted to ask?
I'm good.
All right. We definitely appreciate you taking the time out to humor us and answer our questions today. And I will get this video out ASAP. That way we got as much time as we can to get the word out before the end of the census.
Absolutely. I want to thank you for having me on here and giving you the information. I get a little passionate when it comes to the census and the numbers because a lot of the programs in my neighborhood are needed. So I made sure that, I pounded my neighborhood to make sure that these people know, hey, fill it out before somebody comes knocking on your door. Because in the climate in America today, no one wants to answer the door to somebody, especially they're coming after work. And that's the last thing you want to see is somebody knocking on your door when you're tired coming home from work to try to get your information. So by that means, please fill out your census. Do it yourself. Go online. Colt said he did it. He was looking it up. It takes less than 5 minutes per person. So it's not difficult to do at all. There are only 10 questions on there. We've made it a lot easier.
And it sounds super important. And in fact, rural Texas, especially, where things are already, you don't have a lot of income, you don't have the nicest things. It sounds really important. It sounds like we need to get that knocked out.
Yes.
All righty. Well, thank you again, Yvette. And if you haven't taken the census yet, go do it right now. Census.gov. Take care. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the last video. Before we wrap this up today, we do want to extend an invitation to local businesses that are members of the chamber, community officials, things like that. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to have the opportunity to sit down and actually visit with you and, include you in this podcast, in this channel, give you a chance to share what you're all about and what you're doing. So keep your eyes open. There are some things in the works. We do have some people that are lined up. We have sent out invitations to many others in the community. We have sent out invitations to various community leaders, particularly in the city, trying to, kind of ease some tensions from past things. So hopefully we'll hear from them sometime soon, and we'll be able to have them, sit down with them, do an interview. But I guess what I really just want to get across to everybody is if you feel like you have something you would like to contribute, if you are a member of this community, if you're in the chamber, if you hold an office or something locally, and what you do is directly impactful in the community, we'd love to sit down with you. We'd love to here and now extend that invitation. Reach out to us, give us a call in our office, and we'll work something out. Colt, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, just to give everybody a kind of a heads up on.
You just went mute.
I don't know what happened. Just to give everybody an idea of some things to look out for, we've got a couple of ideas that we're floating around. One of them is women-owned businesses, to get some women of power on and some entrepreneurial spirits in the female realm, as well as minority-owned businesses. We'd love to have all of you guys on too. We're trying to get something set up with the Corps of Engineers in the state park to kind of talk about hunting season and what that looks like on public land and get everybody involved that way. If you've got a business that's in and around the lake, of course, we would love to have you on. If you have something that isn't necessarily inside the city limits of Whitney, if you have a business that is maybe in some of the surrounding areas, Blum and Hillsboro and anything in between those areas, north, south, east, and west, we would love to have you on and get everybody to know kind of what you're doing that's impacting the community and the county as a whole. Like Justin said, we would love to hear from city and county officials and have you guys on, because you guys directly impact everything that they have going on. We've seen on some of our own social media accounts some of the hot button opinions of our community, and maybe we can have some open dialogue just so everybody knows how most of these podcasts go, just kind of behind the curtain, behind the scene a little bit. Really, we sit down and we just start having a conversation. I know it looks kind of like a rehearsed interview from the public standpoint, but realistically, we spend probably 10 or 15 minutes prior to actually hitting the record button, just talking about, anything that's going on, talking about, especially now, COVID and what it looks like for everybody going back to school. And, I think we've spent probably 15 or 20 minutes talking on the school podcast prior to that. Just, hey, what are some of the ideas of what it's going to look like moving forward? And then we just kind of parlayed that into saying, oh, by the way, we're live now and we're recording. So let's just continue this conversation that we're having because it's too good. So, if any of you are kind of nervous about public speaking, it's super easy to sit behind your computer and have a conversation because you're not in front of anybody. And we can just have a conversation just like it is us sitting around having a beer and having a conversation.
And that's exactly what it is. It's just a conversation. So if you have any reservations, you think maybe you don't want to, you're scared about the idea of being interviewed, because I don't know, in front of a camera or something like that, don't be. I'm a very introverted person by nature. I probably don't come across as that anymore, but if I can do it, anybody can do it. Yeah, right. All right. So I don't have anything else to add unless you do, Colt.
I don't either. I appreciate, one plug that I do want to give is Build One Way. They've been a huge supporter of our podcast up to this point. That's another thing to be on the lookout for is sponsorships. We're putting together some stuff to be able to give you some advertising time and some advertising minutes in the podcast in exchange for your support for us. But especially Build One Way, they were the first ones to jump on board and donate some financial resources to give us some in-office podcast equipment. So Rudy and Build One Way, we absolutely appreciate everything that you're doing 100%.
Absolutely. And this podcast isn't going anywhere. So if you want to get the word out about whatever you're doing or whatever your organization or business is, it's a great place to do it. That said, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you again, as always, for your support, for watching. Be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to our channel if you have not already. If you're watching this video and you watched it this far, you have to know people in Whitney. Send this to everybody you know in Whitney. This is only impactful if people are watching it. So the more we get the word out, the more we're sharing what we're talking about with one another, the faster this grows and the faster we can have a positive impact on the community. So thanks again, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Take care.
Thank you, guys.